hand it out to you.
I'd like to call a meeting to order. If we could stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a reminder, if you could silence your cell phones, please.
Forever. Are you supposed to be reading?
No, just a minute. All right, we have some presentations tonight.
Please no.
All right.
Really, you're making me talk about
Sure, why not?
Oh, yeah, this could be real positive.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you got for us, Sean?
I got for you nothing. Basically, not too much of a change in special ed. I don't know if you have seen the budget or whatever, but very little difference. There was about $103,000 increase due to private placements of students and outside placements and in our BOCES line. Everything else is status quo. Our health services is status quo. There's not much change. There's no new programs going in. Our classrooms are the same.
Your graduation rates are up.
Oh, yeah. I cannot believe how well our graduation rates have gone up. And when
Super
you look at how
excited.
many kids went from local to regions,
Super excited.
is huge.
Yeah.
Is really
So
huge.
graduation rates for students with disabilities is in the low 90s.
Yeah.
That's something to be incredibly proud
I
of.
mean, it's been a big, and this is before the new pathways changed, because it just changed again now for the opportunities for kids to graduate, even with a local. So that was good news on that part.
You can talk about
Can I
staff.
tell? Okay. There is a 1.0 FTE in there for the junior, senior high. I have a huge, one of the biggest classes I've ever had going from 6th to 7th grade. Right now, I have 3 teachers servicing that grade level, but when they move up to 7th grade, I don't have that. So I have 5 resource rooms in 7th grades that do not have a teacher for next year. So I have put this in the budget, which is in this budget that I'm talking to you about, is in there.
But the pieces that she's been talking up to this point, she is only presenting the supplies, the contractual, and the BOCES line. So she's really not talking to staffing. So when you're talking, her overall increase is only 8.66%, including all the staffing for this year.
We're still bringing in students from other districts. I got 2 yesterday from North Collins, Orchard Park, paying tuition to come to our program. I just want to let you know real quick, and then I'll be done. A big initiative under PPS is mental health. I know the district is pushing a lot of resources and information for safe and secure schools. Our concern in the PPS department is who are those kids behind the guns? Who are the ones? So there's a huge initiative. I am working very hard with some of my staff, finding the financial end of it to get every staff member in this district trained under mental health first aid, which some of us are trained, but everybody needs to be. And so our goal for next year is all staff to be trained with that. It's a big push. I just went to a big Sage workshop in Greece, and I'm looking at districts that are smaller than us doing it. We need to do it. We need to do it. The needs in this district, I sit back and I listen. I got to go one little plug here. I sit back and listen, and I know we're trying to push for the free and reducing that. We are dealing with families in so much crisis in this district. It is unbelievable that we can't even get them to a CSE meeting. We can't get them to a parent conference. So it's not that we're not trying to get them to understand. Huh?
What kind of crisis?
Everything you can imagine between, you can go as minor in trauma as divorce up into, we have had suicides. We have had parents with medical issues pass away. We have more than you can imagine grandparents raising their grandkids in this district. Our homeless rate is going up big time. So there's a whole area of needs that have to be addressed, but I need our staff to understand it. And our staff are great, but what can we do? We have had more children hospitalized this year than we've ever had. And we don't have money for that. We just are doing it with the staff we have. We're doing it with the resources we have, so we're looking at ways to make that so everybody is trained in this district from K to 12. Bus drivers, attendants, food, staff, everything, that is our goal. We need to do what other districts are doing. That's a push. And if I could do it without little income needed from this district, that will be a blessing, and that's what I'll do. So that's us in PPS.
Questions for
Any
Sean?
questions?
When you say the hospitalization, is that with people with students with disabilities or across the board?
Across the board.
Across the board, really?
Usually not my students.
Yeah.
Yeah, across the board. These counselors are running, we only have one social worker. So when we can't get kids to school, she's out there, it's very hard when you have one social worker for 1,300 kids, is that that's a little tricky. So we're utilizing that. I'm working with
So the social worker is also part of that grant that came through the Senate last night?
It is?
Psychologist, counselor,
Mental
social
health
worker,
piece.
mental
Yeah.
health.
Mental health counselor?
Yep.
Yeah.
To decrease the ratio of those staff to students. It's a great, Google it, you'll find it. It's a great bill.
So hopefully money will come with that.
Money
Yeah.
would come with it, that's exactly
Yeah,
what
we
it was.
need to go
And
through-
hopefully, money that's
And then
not
they
being
go-
taken from some other program that we have.
Yeah, I know, I'm waiting to see where it's coming from.
Right.
Right?
Here too.
Okay, so that's what that is. And the increase of students that are in outside placements, you know how I pride this district on, the majority of our kids are educated here. But due to the extreme mental health issues and the needs, I am utilizing more of BOCES, more of Falk, more of Gateway, those outside districts, outside programs. So that's what increased my budget a little bit. Okay?
And just a comment, and not to take I think what Sean is seeing is happening everywhere.
Oh, it is, yeah.
It's not just an Eden thing. I mean, I see it in my building all the time. Families in chronic crisis, and what does that do to these little kids? We have probably the biggest population of children with emotional
Anxiety.
imbalances
Yeah.
that I've ever seen at a young age. Kindergarten. I mean, these are kindergarten age kids with the worst coping strategies I've ever seen.
Yeah, and we have
ever.
3 and 4. But you know what? Just like you have that in Frontier with a huge district that, I used to work with you. We have the same needs, but the resources are
Fewer
different.
resources.
Okay?
That's right.
I still have the same type of kids at Frontier,
Mm-hmm.
or my home district of West Seneca or whatever.
right.
The resources are limited. We are utilizing very few staff members to try to help these families. We have the same problem as your Williamsville kids or your Frontier kids. That's always been, we still have to educate and we still have to do everything else without the resources because we're small. And we don't have the money, so that's the struggle with any service under PPS, and that's so.
Which is why the state should fund 50% of
Yeah.
our budget.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
Transportation. The only person that doesn't agree with it is the state.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be just a shorter Sean, I think.
Time did you get up today, Mary Banco?
I get up at 4.
You get up at 4, so, okay.
I'm still awake.
And what time is your typical bedtime?
About
In about a
now.
half hour.
So you're going to be quick.
I have just a few thoughts put together here. I thought it would be important because this school board is relatively new. I thought I'd start by kind of explaining how we are structured at the Transportation Department. We have 26 drivers, and those 26 drivers are tied to 26 daily routes, which I'll get into a little bit more later. We have 5 bus attendants who are tied one-on-one to kids through their IEPs. We have a whopping 1 substitute bus driver and 3 substitute bus attendants. So when I hire somebody, I try to get them to cross-train. So if somebody comes in and wants to be a bus driver, we cross-train as a bus attendant and vice versa if they're willing. It helps us cover things because we can move things around a little bit. Our fleet is comprised of 25 full-size buses, 8 little buses, a wheelchair bus, and a minivan. It gives us a few spares, so if the guys are doing maintenance or something breaks down or whatever, we have a couple on site right now, which is a much better place than we were in about 2.5 years ago. So where do we transport? We transport, of course, to the 3 Eden schools here, and our drivers run a split run starts with high school, 7 through 12, and then they usually have a 5 or 10-minute break, and they head right out on the road and pick up the pre-K through 6th graders. We also transport to the vocational schools, Ormsby, Carrier, and P-TECH. We have 10 special ed or alternate ed schools ranging from the Amherst area down south to Laguitas and Fredonia.
So when I close school and you hear me say, I'm not sure we can get our buses outside of Eden back home, this is what we're talking about. We know we can drive within Eden, right? It's the other schools. Yeah.
Right. We transport to 6 private and parochial schools, and typically we try to bring those kids in on the high school bus and then shuttle them from the high school to their private schools. We do have a few because of the bell times that we have to transport separately. But, you know, as does Sean and every other department in the district, we try to consolidate as much as possible. So we also have a really great working relationship with North Collins. So for example, for St. Al's out in Springville, we have one kid, he's on the furthest end of the school district, and wouldn't you know, he's within the 15 miles of St. Al's, so we transport there now. We get him there in the morning. We have a hard time getting him home, so North Collins brings him home for us, and in exchange, we take a North Collins kid to Laguitas every day with us. So North Collins has been a great counterpart to work with. We share several things with them. And then, of course, we have the additional trips, sports trips, field trips, the Tuesday, Thursday late run, which used to be mainly for high school kids. It's actually, in the last year and a half, 2 years, become almost primarily an elementary late run. Very few high school kids use it. We have a lot of clubs happening at the elementary school now, garden club, math Olympiad. Kids will stay after for extra help, and we take them home on the late bus. And that brings us to about 410,000 miles a year that we drive. For next year, for transportation, it's always the buses are our big thing. We were able to do a couple things this year that put us in a really good place for next year. The big thing, and I know I've already talked about it, but the buses were all outfitted with cameras. Everything we purchased from 2009 current was purchased with a camera system. Back in 2009, they were installing the cameras literally on the floor. So as the water came in, or the buses were washed, or the things washed up from the road, those cameras have been ruined. So we outfitted the buses that had cameras that weren't operable anymore, and the cameras that were bought before 2000, or the buses that were bought before 2000, because we still have a lot of those, 2009, outfitted them with camera systems this year, and we outfitted 18 buses. Mainly they're used for student discipline investigations. They've been a godsend, so if somebody comes in and reports something, or the driver smells something or thinks they hear something, it's very easy now to take a look at it and see what's going on. The Versatrans routing software, I won't read everything here. You can read through it, but routing in the transportation department is one of our primary jobs. It's not just setting it up at the beginning of the school year, it happens every single day. So if a kid now has a split custody, or they've changed custodial arrangements, or they've changed babysitters, or they're going to grandma's on Friday, or whatever, there's steps that have to happen to make sure that kid gets to the right place. So the routing software we're using right now is extremely non-user friendly. It's very cumbersome. It's not effective. The new system will save us a lot of time. It'll make the routing easier. It'll make the changes easier. It will communicate with PowerSchool every single night. So if God forbid somebody suddenly has a parent alert and dad's not supposed to be there when the kid gets home, we might not know that for a week right now. And it could happen the next day, and it has happened. So this system will speak with PowerSchool more effectively than the system we have now. The big thing and the big benefit that the parents will see is the system was purchased with a GPS and an app called MyStop. Lakeshore uses it right now, North Collins has it, a lot of the bigger districts have it already. It's an app for your phone. The bus has a GPS on it, the parent downloads the app, we give them a student ID number, it's individual for each of their students, and they set it up the first time. They can set it up on their kid's phone or, both their phones, it doesn't matter. And it'll tell them in real time where the bus is. So, on a typical day, our buses run literally within 30 seconds all the time. The drivers are really great, but you get a snowy day, and that bus might suddenly be 10 minutes late. And we don't want kids standing outside in that kind of weather waiting for the bus, yet we expect them to be there for the bus. So the MyStop app will be, I think, a huge benefit for the parents and for our department, because what happens right now is it's snowy out, the bus is running 10 minutes late, the parent calls the office to find out if they missed the bus or if it's on its way. I radio the driver answers me, I get back on the phone with the parent I had on hold, and I tell them how far away the bus is. In the meantime, there's 3 other calls waiting because everybody's worried about the bus when it's crummy out. So now the parents will be able to look and see, okay, well, the bus is still over on Farner Road, I didn't miss it, it's on its way. And for the kids' safety, instead of them worrying about being outside, because a lot of people are really worried about being there waiting at the road, which is fantastic, but when it's crummy out, they can wait inside, and when they see the bus coming up the road, boom, they're out the door, they're on the bus.
It could even speed up the total time.
The total time
Total
for...
time. So when I get behind a bus now, when I watch the kids that are standing at the door and then they walk down the driveway and then they get on the bus, if in fact everybody
absolutely.
was efficient, it could shorten our time, which for us would be amazing, because I know we have a hard time turning the bus around and getting it
Right.
back on a snowy day in time.
Right. And it'll also be good, I think, as the 6th graders come up, I know a lot of parents leave and go to work. The kid will have the app. The parent will know that it actually tells you that bus stopped at the house. So the parent will know that the bus stopped and their kid is on the bus okay. It's really a fantastic
That last
addition.
sentence is super important, too. Do you want to just talk about that one for a minute?
Which one?
About not interrupting the driver when they're trying to drive?
Oh, yeah, I mean, one of the biggest issues for a driver is having distractions when you're driving and the weather's just so awful, you can't see where you're going. So if we can avoid having to communicate with the driver, they can focus and keep both hands on the wheel and be paying attention to what they're doing. So the benefits for this MyStop app are just all-encompassing.
Can I ask a quick question? Can you only see your child, or can you see
You
any?
can only see your child. You
Okay.
can see that bus route.
Okay.
You can see the bus track through the whole route, but you only see your own kid.
And did you say this? Do parents get like specific codes?
They'll get a
like-
specific student code. Each student, it's
Okay.
not by family, it's each student, because there might be 5 kids in a house,
Okay.
but they have different arrangements, so.
you would know if your child wasn't on that bus then?
You would know, the app will tell you if the bus stopped at your house or how far it is from your house. It won't tell you if your student walked onto that bus, though.
But I have an app on my phone that tells me where my husband is right now. So you could do that, too, as a parent.
I know where mine is.
Lauren gave it to me. It's the most fabulous app I've ever used. Yeah. You know he's home, right? But I mean, honestly, my husband doesn't have to call and say, "Are you on your way?" He can tell I'm on my way.
Maybe just his phone is home.
That's not a good day when he just leaves his phone home.
You can tell I'm the only single one sitting at this table.
Your trusting is just remarkable.
The next big project that we'll be doing, and luckily we have the Versatrans software being installed soon, but with 6th grade moving up to the high school, we'll be rerouting the district. We have to make space on the buses for the 6th graders now. Right in 2015, we rerouted the district and loaded the buses as tight as we could get them. So now we have to creatively think about how to get those kids on that bus. So there'll be some changes to the bus routes. And this program that we purchased allows for a lot of flexibility, a lot of experimentation. Last time I did it, I literally had a flip chart and a marker, and I figured it out, and then I went into the program that we have, and I manually did it. This program allows you to try different options and load the students and see how it fits better. It's going to save a lot of time.
Mary, what percentage, so I know you're like, when you designed a route, you want 100% capacity. What percentage are actually taking the bus?
Well, that's kind of a twofold question. So there used to be this theory that you needed to have a seat for every student in case one day they ever rode. State Ed does not require that. And I didn't design the buses to do that this time because I know that I have one route with 100 kids routed to it, but I know that realistically, 45 ride the bus. So I try to load it so that we have 2 high school kids in every seat, and the elementary runs so we have 2 like 4th or 5th and 6th graders per seat and up to 3 preschool and kindergartners to a seat. So I try to load everything. I think I've lost your question a little bit, but I try to load it so we have full capacity, knowing that about 60% of the kids actually ride the bus home, especially at the high school level with sports.
Right.
Winter sports are, we're packed a little bit tighter. If we close school early because
We've learned
the
our
snow
lesson
or
on
whatever,
that.
I have a couple buses where I have extra drivers on standby because if the kids actually all have to go home, they don't fit on the bus.
Okay.
But on an average day, it's not an issue. It's those, so we have contingency plans for those rare occasions when we actually do need to get them all on the bus. But
So Mary, you did this when you came in and rerouted. Let's answer Don's question differently. What percentage do you think of capacity of the bus was there before you rerouted in 2015? What percentage of the bus's capacity?
we had buses running around with 14, 15, 16 kids on it.
Because I think that's really what you're asking.
Yeah, and you'll still see that on occasion, especially on the high school runs.
Well, yeah, I mean, once you get
with
into
spring sports
and
especially.
musical and everything that's going on, it's, yeah, I completely get that.
Yeah. With the 6th grade adds a new element of almost a guessing game because most of them ride the bus. They'll all ride the bus in. They may not all ride the bus home, though, because they're doing intramurals.
And the intramurals will be new, so that's really the guessing game, and those run every 10 weeks.
Yeah,
So that means
so-
every 10 weeks, we have to account for a change.
Right, so it almost, and those kids that stay after, the middle school kids that stay after for intramurals or extra help or clubs or whatever, will take the elementary bus home, which they currently take now, but they're not going to be routed for that anymore. So there really needs to be some flexibility on the elementary run to fit those kids that stay after for intramurals. We're finding that right now with AEP. The AEP participation has skyrocketed, so we're already finding right now, even with those kids, sometimes it's tough to fit them on the elementary buses. So I'm hoping that the new routing system will help us account for some of those variables that we may be able to tweak the runs throughout the year if we have to.
Thanks.
All right, last page, in a nutshell, the budget, the budget summary is, it's status quo. It's going up less than 0.5% due to things like insurance and things outside of our control. Anybody who was here a few years ago knows that there was an awful lot of time put into figuring out how to bring our bus fleet back up to modern times. We still have a lot of buses that are 10, 11, 12 years old that we're working still to access them before they access themselves.
And a guideline is between 7 and 9,
We're aiming
really.
for 7 years.
Yeah.
That was the board goal that was
So
put
you're
out a few years
almost
ago.
1.5 times.
Yeah, we're
past
we're
the
still
light.
pretty far from making that happen, but we have a plan and we're working toward it. So I'm hoping to get 3 large buses and 2 small buses, and then we do have a minivan right now with 187,000 miles on it that will not pass inspection the next time it comes around. So we have a few months to use it until the school year's over, and we do use that every day to take 2 students out to Amherst. So we'd like to get an expedition or something similar that we can use for those 1 or 2 run kids,
not taking
but
a
also, I'm sorry?
So you're not taking a bus?
So we're not taking a bus on some of these runs. And also, there's been talk about conditional drivers where maybe the golf coach, rather than us having to send a bus and a driver to run the golf team to Gowanda, maybe the coach can drive with the kids, and that's something that's we've talked about and that's allowed through state ed, and would be a good way, a good use for the expedition because they can't drive the school bus, but they can drive the expedition. So we're trying to think outside the box and help alleviate some of, I mean, quite honestly, the sports runs become pretty tough to get the kids to when we have to get the kids home and still get the sports out there. So we're trying to think creatively to find solutions.
And part of the problem becomes is the golf courses want our kids off so that when the adults come home from work, they're not full of kids. So we can't ask them to back up the time to meet our busing issues.
Right, right. So the toughest phone call that I get from Marissa is, I need a bus at 2 o'clock. And I'm like, they're all taking high school kids home. I don't have a bus at 2 o'clock. And sometimes that has to be the answer. But something like this expedition would take care of those smaller things where the wrestling team, or last year the track team, had to get over to Lake Shore to practice because our track was tied up. And it has a lot of potential, I think.
How many kids can you put in the expedition?
7 plus the driver.
That's just this. So, okay, I'm just gonna, and I'm not, I have a couple of questions. I have a minivan. My minivan seats 8, and it's probably significantly cheaper than an Expedition. So I'm just curious why.
Shockingly enough, well, one reason is size. There's safety in size.
Okay.
My being says every kid should ride in a yellow school bus, but sometimes it's not the best choice. And off of the state bid, you can get something like an Expedition for less than I would go buy a Cavalier for. So it's amazing the discount that comes through state bid on a vehicle like that.
Makes sense.
And so you would be looking at a new one as opposed to used maybe from another school district or something?
We haven't decided if it would be new or used. Those are both options we can look at. It's in our, we're getting quotes from a couple different places. The town's been really good about helping educate us because this is something that we haven't done in many, many years. So we're working, they've talked to me about a couple, I can't think of what the term is, where you can go off of someone else's bid.
Piggybacking.
Piggybacking. So we're looking at different options. So it's not set in stone which way, but.
So you as a board approved that policy maybe 3 years ago to piggyback, which is really nice.
Questions?
Good, bad.
Good.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, so you do need to notice that I'm smiling, and I'm not handing out you anything. And I was just trying to think how to explain the good position I'm in, and I think I need to start by thanking you all. And part of that reason is that we do have a tech plan, and so many years, some of you that have been around, I know Ellen's heard me, I'd be here going, oh, I'm hoping that we can stay on our recycle replace for just our basic needs. And the last few years, we've been able to do that. You guys have given me a sustainable budget I can count on. I've been able to keep our recycle replace even when the state moved it from 6 years to 5 years. So that, you need to know that, because I'm going to tell you that my budget is neutral this year, except for a couple things with BOCES services that went up. Everything else is either a little below or right at where I'm at this year. And now I'm able to talk to you about new initiatives. And they're not all smart schools. It's because I've been able to balance that recycle, replace, and be able to keep a sustainable budget. And so last year was year one of our 3-year rollout of one-to-one. Last year we funded the initial pilot at the GLP out of our budget because we were able to do that through, again, I'm smiling. It's like, so this year we were able to do the big push with some smart school bond funds, but also some of our budget from what we used last year to be able to do new things. So we were able to fully do the GLP, all the classrooms, one-to-one with iPad minis. We were able to put the pilot program into the elementary school with the Chromebooks, which was a pilot teacher in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and another full set to be able to share with the other 3 classrooms so that they're ready for next year. They were able to train 6th grade, 5 classrooms, because of the smoking deal we got with Dell this summer. We were able to do full one-to-one.
Yeah. Wow.
That
was unexpected. 7
and 8, which they thought they were going to be next year. We were, instead of just being able to put 1 between the 2 English teachers, we were able to do 2. I think Sue, you notice, is still here. That was unexpected, and that was a good deal that we got from Dell, but it was also be able to sustain. So telling you that I'm budget neutral next year, we should be able to move forward with full one-to-one with K through 8 next year, being able to do it. So I just wanted to tell you that's kind of our plan,
That's an awesome
where we're
thing.
at.
You go
And
back,
I'm not
what?
asking for more money.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
So,
2 or 3 years ago,
What
yeah.
you've accomplished in 3 years.
yeah. But again, I think you needed to know that it was built on several years before that, being able to stay on that recycle, replace. Because you think about,
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 18 years, guys. When I had those years where you said you don't have enough, that means we're pushing old stuff that should have been replaced, and then now I've got 2 years to try to make
Oh,
it up.
that's the
So,
same, that's the
yeah,
bus
just-
conversation.
Yes,
right?
so to be able to sustain it, I can
Yeah.
tell you that good financial planning works, and we're able to actually talk about new initiatives that the district's able to move forward with.
Yay, good job.
So, okay, so that was my short program, so
Thank
any
you,
questions? So there
Lucinda.
you go, thank you.
Okay. It's you?
I have your
Yes.
Larry, this is for you.
What's for him?
He asked for the fact that it's hard for them not to be able to see anything when I speak. Why is it just my grandson?
Cinder's coming. Cinder's coming. He's presenting the budget.
Let me pull it out again, and let me put the,
I mean, he's a cute guy, but that's not why you're here.
try putting Bruce notes. Try, yeah, go ahead. Are you doing PowerPoint?
Yep. Let's try it again. Maybe I couldn't have it set up before.
That should do it, what you just did. There you go.
Yep, apparently I can't go into it beforehand. So I too will be brief. We're going to start with a salary and benefit presentation. We're going to talk about proposed staffing cuts. This one I'm really proud of. We're not planning on any cuts this year. So then we're going to look at, these are kind of the same as from the last presentation, but we have a school resource officer, which we are hoping to contract with the town for cost sharing. So that's why some of the questions that were asked earlier, we don't have answers to yet because we're trying to work those out. We're going to have middle school, high school monitors, 2 of them. Middle school, high school greeter/attendants, which will be 1 full FTE. Elementary level new teaching positions will be 2 FTEs. Special education teaching position will be 1 FTE. Instructional coach teacher would be 0.5. And then we would increase existing teaching staff 1.19 on top of this. In library, music, physical education, technology, business, and art. So we did have some retirement percentage increases, and the teacher retirement system went up 0.83 cents on a dollar of salary, and the employees retirement system, which is our support staff, went up 0.05 or 5 cents on a dollar. So now this is the part that everybody wants to know. Where are we? So I've just broken it down into the main components. And as you can see, we have general support, that's the Board of Education, Central Administration, Finance, Legal, Public Services, Central Services, and some special items. So that's going up 12.73% from last year's budget. Our total instruction cost is up 3.67%. Our pupil transportation is up 0.49, as Mrs. Benko had said. And then our civic activities, employee benefits, debt service, and interfund transfers are up 0.64%. So our total general fund expenditures are up 3.71%. So if you want to know what our actual full increase is 3.71%. Right now, for this presentation, because I have no other authorization, I typically put in my maximum tax levy cap by the calculation for a simple majority of 50% plus 1. So that's where I always start out my budget presentations, and I say that because I'm new to the district this year. So our state aid, we're planning on 5.36% increase. We're going to see our miscellaneous go down a little as I'm looking at and not convinced that our sales tax is going to stay as high as it was last year, so I've dropped that a little bit just to be conservative. We're looking at our interfund transfers to stay the same, and our appropriated, if our appropriated fund balance stays the same and our reserves stay the same, we have a $460,000 gap to fill before we have a balanced budget for the voters. Does anyone have any questions?
So what we're using totally from the reserves based on this would be 1.4?
Yes.
Okay. And then last year we used, what was the number, 1.4,
1.4, it was exactly the same. I haven't changed anything yet.
Because last year we used reserves from the busing transportation.
And that is the plan for this year as well. And
For
what,
about $400,000, right?
this year it will be higher. This year it'll be right around a little over 600,000. We have a $92,000 mowing machine for the grounds, and we have $504,000 planned in bus purchases. And that's because we looked at the age of our fleet and we wanted to accelerate that schedule if we could, and this year we felt the reserves as of 6/30 of 17 had over $1 million, and so we moved that up a little bit to accelerate our bus replacement cycle.
We've already notified the state that we're thinking of going out at 2%.
I've notified the state that we are potentially planning to override our tax cap. They do not ask for a dollar or percentage figure.
Oh, they don't?
No, they just want to know, are you planning on exceeding it? So that's all we've told them at this point. All set? So, what are our next steps? We're going to have a budget workshop on March 21st at 6:15 right here in the junior senior high cafeteria. I will be presenting 3 final scenarios because I have to have some guidance from the board, some idea, some feel through conversation of what you're thinking, whether or not you want to pledge reserves, things like that. So what I will give you is a tax cap compliant balanced budget at 0.46. Well, actually, it won't be balanced, but the question will be, do you want to make cuts, or will you want to, because state aid will come in March 31st. So the question is, the balance that state aid doesn't cover, how would you like me to fill that gap? That will be the question on everything. Then we'll talk about, my last directive was right around a 2% override. That number may change after tonight's forum because everybody was listening to what is being said. And then I would present what a contingency budget would look like if we plan to exceed the tax cap and we're unsuccessful, so that everybody knows exactly what is at stake when we do this. And then March 31st, we're hoping to get a budget from New York State so that we can finalize our numbers and move forward. So that I believe April 17th is the board meeting that has been slated for adoption for the budget.
So let me wrap my head around this for a second.
Okay.
So basically, we're going up 3.71%. And if you go back to all the FTEs that were in there, basically, I think it was 8.69 FTEs on the one slide. Those numbers are all in these numbers here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Everything that was presented is already in these numbers.
Okay.
Other questions or comments?
Thank you.
All right. Anything else from the board?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.